Mataji's voice is not very clear, Prabhuji. It's breaking actually.
Breaking? Voice is breaking? Just a moment. Somehow
Your voice is clear, Prabhuji. Maybe little closer.
Is it okay now? Mataji?
Your voice is clear, Prabhuji.
Janame sukhe bol hari bol, bol hari bol, bol hari bol, bol hari bol. Manave janame pai bol hari bol, bol hari bol. Dukhe thako bol hari bol, bol hari bol, bol hari bol, hari bol. Sampade vipade bhai bol hari bol, bol hari bol, bol hari bol, bol hari bol. Riye thako bane thako bol hari bol. Krishna re samsare khati bol hari bol, bol hari bol, bol hari bol, bol hari bol. असत संगे छाड़ी भाई बोल हरि बोल, बोल हरि बोल, बोल हरि बोल, बोल हरि बोल। वैष्णव धरती परी बोल हरि बोल, 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 बोल हरि बोल। गौरा नित्यानंद बोलो बोल, नित्यानंद बोल। गौर गदाधर बोलो गौर गदाधर, गौर अद्वैत बोलो गौर अद्वैत बोलो, बोल हरि बोल, 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 बोल हरि बोल. We'll read the translation also. Chant the name of Hari, O brothers, with blissful mind. Chant the name of Hari. Chant the name of Hari. Birth after birth in happiness. Chant the name of Hari. Chant the name of Hari, O brothers. You have obtained a human birth. Now, chant the name of Hari. Chant the name of Hari. You are in happiness or distress. Chant the name of Hari. The name of Hari chant chant the name of Hari, O brothers, whether in prosperity or misfortune. Chant the name of Hari. Chant the name of Hari. Whether you live at home or in the forest, chant the name of Hari. Remaining in this material world for Krishna's purposes, chant the name of Hari. Chant the name of Hari, O brothers. Give up the association of non-devotees and chant the name of Hari. Chant the name of Hari. Falling at the feet of Vaishnavas, chant the name of Hari. Chant the name of Hari, the names of Gaura and Nityananda. Chant the names of Gaura and Gadadhara. Chant the names of Gaura and Advaita. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. So we'll start with the prayers. Om Ajnantimirandasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Nitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah. Namah Pankajanaphaya Namah Pankajamaliye Namah Pankajamitraya Krishna Prema Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauravise Namah. Namo Brahmanyaya Devaya Gau Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Veshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I am not qualified to give this class, but as a service and as for my purification, we'll do this. So I'll So we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam. So till now, His Grace Giriraj Prabhuji had completed 4.21 from Shloka 1 to 32. So today we will start discussing from Shloka 33. So in this chapter, so let's look at what is the topic, what is the name of the chapter. So in this chapter, it is about instructions of Prithu Maharaj. So Prithu Maharaj, I mean, the story of Prithu Maharaj till now has been that he becomes angry with the earth, and then he milks the earth planet. He performs 100 or sacrifices, and then Lord himself appears in the sacrificial arena of Prithu Maharaj. So Prithu Maharaj is actually an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, as Giriraj Prabhuji has mentioned yesterday. So we'll now look at the instructions given by Prithu Maharaj to his to the people who are living in his kingdom. And since Prithu Maharaj was ruling the whole world, it is instructions for the whole world. So these instructions are really very profound, and it explains the complete philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So Prithu Maharaj, the instructions given by Prithu Maharaj, if you read the purports, especially from 32 onwards, it actually gives you a very, very detailed understanding of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. What must be done in Krishna consciousness such that we can achieve to our goal. So these shlokas and the purport given by Srila Prabhupada is very, very instructive and very, very fundamental. And if we read them thoroughly and understand them thoroughly, we will understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So let's go into this in detail one by one. So the purports from 31 to 51 are pretty detailed. So we will try to read the purport, because the purport talks about from Varnashrama Dharma to serving the Brahmanas, to serving the Vaishnavas, to do what is needed, how a king must rule, and then what are the duties of the citizens. All that is mentioned here. If you remember, when we finished the Bhakti Shastri course, we had invited our teachers, and one of the Prabhujis had given a lecture on this, on the instructions of Prithu Maharaj, based on this instructions of Prithu Maharaj, where he had spoken about rights and responsibilities. So Prabhuji had spoken about that there are certain rights which are there, but then because you have some rights, you have some responsibilities as well. So somebody who does take advantage of the rights but does not perform his responsibilities, then he goes to hell and suffers a lot. So all these instructions which are given by Prithu Maharaj comes in this chapter. And so without wasting time, let's get started, because the purports are pretty detailed, and we will try to read what Prabhupada has said instead of me blabbering something. So let's get started right away. So we will, I mean, if somebody can read the shloka, so let me start with this. Laptop is behaving. Okay. So translation for shloka 33. Prithu Maharaj advised his citizens, engaging your minds, your words, your bodies, and the results of your occupational duties, and being always open-minded, you should all render devotional service to the Lord. According to your abilities and the occupations in which you are situated, you should engage your service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with full confidence and without reservation. Then you will surely be successful in achieving the final objective in your lives. Okay, so very, very clear translation, where if you render devotional service according to your abilities and occupation. So this is very, very important statement. According to your abilities and occupations in which you are situated, you should engage your service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is no need for changing anything. Just based on our abilities and occupations, we can continue devotional service. So this is one of the key takes away, and we will read the purport of Prabhupada. It is very, very instructive. Anybody would want to volunteer? It's a pretty big purport with big paragraphs. So anybody would want to read it?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, shall I read?
Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
As stated in the 18th, I started reading from the book. That's right. No, only which you have highlighted.
No, Mataji, you read from the book. We will read the full purports. These purports are very, very.
Okay. Thank you. As stated in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Swakarmana tam abhyarchya. One has to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by one's occupational duties. This necessitates accepting the principle of 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. Prithu Maharaja therefore says, Gunaihi Swakarma bihi. This phrase is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvarnyam maya shishtam guna karma vibhagasaha. The 4 castes, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, are created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the material modes of nature and the particular duties discharged in those modes. A person who is situated in the modes of goodness is certainly more intelligent than others. Therefore, he can practice the Brahminical activities, namely speaking, controlling the mind, remaining always tolerance, having full knowledge about one's self-identity, and understanding devotional service. In this way, if he engages himself in the loving service of the Lord as an actual Brahmana, he is able to achieve the final interest of give protection to the possessions in charity, to be strictly Vedic in the management of state affairs, and to be unafraid to fight whenever there is an attack by enemies. In this way, a Kshatriya can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his occupational duties. Similarly, a Vaishya can satisfy the Supreme Godhead by properly executing his occupational duties, engaging himself in producing foodstuffs, giving protection to cows, and trading, if necessary, when there is an excess of agricultural production. Similarly, because Shudras do not have ample intelligence, they should simply engage as workers to serve the higher status of social life. Everyone's aim should be to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead By engaging his mind in thinking always of Krishna, his words in always offering prayers to the Lord or preaching about the glories of the Lord, and his body in executing the service required to satisfy the Lord. As there are four divisions within our body, the head, the arms, the belly, and the legs, similarly, human society, taken as a whole, is divided into four classes of men according to their material qualities and occupational duties. Thus, the Brahminical or intelligent men have to execute the duty of the head. The Kshatriyas must fulfill the duty of the arms. The Vaishya class must fulfill the duty of the belly, and the Shudras must fulfill the duty of the legs. In executing the prescribed duties of life, no one is higher or lower. There are such divisions as higher and lower, but since there is actually a common interest to satisfy the super personality of Godhead, there are no distinctions between them. The question may be raised. That's
Yeah,
enough.
Mataji. Yeah,
Okay.
Mataji. I'll give somebody else a chance also. Thank you, Mataji, so much. So a very important point here is there are higher and lower, but since there is actually a common interest, the common interest is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are no distinctions between them. See, there are distinctions on the material level where we are saying, since people are doing different kinds of duties or different kinds of activities, there is some division. But on the spiritual platform, there are no differences, right? No matter what you do, but if you are engaged in satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then there are no distinctions between anybody, right? A Brahmana, a Shudra, a Vaishya, or a Kshatriya, if all of are engaged anybody who is engaged in to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are no distinctions. They are as good as the Brahmanas, and the distinction of higher and lower is only on the material platform. So that is what Prabhupada is saying here, and that is what we are understanding is that the whole humanity should be engaged in serving the Supreme Personality of God. And then there are various slokas Prabhupada is quoting here from Bhagavad Gita, where he's talking about the distribution, right? Chaturvarnyam Maya Shrishtam. So this Varnashrama Dharma or Varnashrama system is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada had this mission to actually reestablish the Varnashrama Dharma. And we had Sannyasi Maharaj coming and explaining us about this. So if you remember the classes given by His Grace Bhakti Raghav Maharaj, I'm sorry if I'm taking the wrong name. Yeah, he had come and given us a class on this. So let's move ahead. I will read this. The question may be raised that since the Lord is supposed to be worshipped by great demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and others, how can an ordinary human being on this planet serve him? So this is a very, very relevant question. This is clearly explained by Prithu Maharaj by the use of the word yatha adhikarya, according to one's ability. Adhikar means what? Adhikar is you have some adhikar, right? Something, you can do something, right? So if one sincerely executes his occupational one does not need to become like Brahma, Lord, whose capabilities are certainly far above ours. Even a Shudra who is in the lowest stage of life, according to the material qualities, can achieve the same success. Anyone can become successful in devotional service, provided he displays no duplicity. Very, very important. Displays no duplicity. It is explained that one must be very frank and open-minded, amanya. To be situated in a lower status of life is not a disqualification for success in devotional service. So that is the greatness of devotional success. If you do it, you will be successful. The only qualification is that whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, he must be open, frank, and free from reservations. Then by performing his particular occupational duty under the guidance of a proper spiritual master, he can achieve the highest success in life. As confirmed by the Lord himself, Striyo, Vaishyas, Tatha Shudras, Tepi, Yanti, Param Gatim. I mean, anybody can achieve the success, right? He can reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it talks about this. It does not matter what one is, whether a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or a degraded. If one engages himself, serious emotional service, if one engages himself seriously in devotional service, working with body, mind, and intelligence, he is sure to be successful in going back to Godhead. The Lord's lotus feet are described here as Kama Duhngari Pankajam, because they have all the power to fulfill the desire of everyone. But devotee is happy even in this life, because although in material existence he have many needs, all his material needs are satisfied when he at last quits his body. He goes back home, back to Godhead without a doubt. So very, very important point here is that we may anything, we might not, I mean, we can even be a chandala, but if we perform devotional service, and how, being without duplicity, that is one very important thing. We are not duplicitous, frank and open-minded. Frank means we are eager to perform devotional service, and open-minded means we do not try to distinguish, right? I mean, people try to gossip, try to consider that these people are superior, these are inferior, this devotee is good, this devotee is bad. Without having such kind of distinctions, being open-minded, being frank, being without duplicity, if we perform devotional service, no matter who we are, it will be a success. So this is a very, very important thing to understand, that we don't need to change anything. See, the devotional service itself will change you. I mean, it will take you higher and higher and higher. So being born in this particular Brahmana family, Kshatriya family, or even a Shudra family is not a disqualification. But by performing devotional service, we will become first-class Vaishnavas, who are in fact beyond all these four classes of men: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And that will come out in the next verses. So let's move ahead. Any questions here? Okay. So yeah, sorry. Okay. Yeah, anybody would want to read?
Yes, Prabhu, I will read.
Yeah.
I should start from the question, right? Where? What?
Sorry, Prabhuji. You can read the shloka also.
No, where I to start? Right now, I'm seeing the question to maybe raised. That is what I'm saying. Okay. Okay. Yes.
So you are seeing the shloka 34th, right, Prabhuji?
Yes,
Now?
yes, I'm seeing. Yes, bro. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Well, so I'll take 5 seconds pause. 1 minute.
Yeah.
You want me to read sloka or translation, bro?
You can go ahead, Prabhuji. If you can read the shloka, well and good. If not, you can start from translation.
Okay, bro. Yes. असौ इहाल के गुलो गुलाल द्रवरा पृथ्राग्विदा द्रव्य गुला कृतो कृतभिः संपर्द्यते रस्तस्य लिङ्गलाभिर्विशुद्धा विज्ञानगाला स्वरूपतः. Hare Krishna. Sorry, bro. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental and not contaminated by the material world. But although he is concentrated spirit soul without material variety, for the benefit of the conditioned soul, he nevertheless accepts different types of sacrifice performed with various material elements, rituals, and mantras, and offered to the demigods under different names according to the interest and the purpose of the performers. Purposes of the performance. Purpose. For the material prosperity, there are recommendations in the Vedas for the various types of yajna sacrifice. In Bhagavad Gita, yeah, you've gone up, I believe.
Sorry, Prabhuji. My laptop, I don't know what is happening. It is
No
become
problem.
very stuck.
Yeah, for the material perspective, there are recommendations in the Vedas for the various types of yajna sacrifice. In Bhagavad Gita 3.10, it is confirmed that the Lord Brahma created all the living entities, including human beings and the demigod, and advised them to perform yajna according to their material desires. Sahayagna, Sahayagna Prajas Srishtva. These performances are called yagnas because their ultimate goal is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. The purpose of performing yagnas is to get material benefits, but because the aim is is to simultaneously satisfy the Supreme Lord, such yagnas have been recommended in the Vedas. Such performances are, of course, known as karma kanda, or material activities, and all the material activities are certainly contaminated by the three weights of the material nature. Generally, the karma kanda ritualistic ceremony are performed in the mode of passion. Yet, the conditioned souls, both human beings and the demigods, are obliged to perform these yagnas because without them one cannot be happy at all. Still,
Hare Krishna.
Vishwanath, yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
okay. Shall I go ahead? You want to explain? Prabhu?
Go ahead, Prabhuji, go ahead. We'll read the
Okay.
purport.
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that the Karmakanda ritualistic ceremonies, although contaminated, contain touches of devotional service because because when there is a performance of yajna, the Lord Vishnu is given a central position. That is very important. This is very important because even a little endeavor to please the Lord Vishnu is bhakti and is of a great value. A tinge of bhakti purifies the material nature of the performance, which by devotional service gradually come to the transcendental position. Therefore, although such yagnas are superficially material activities, the results are transcendental. Such yagnas are Surya Yagna, Indra Yagna, and Chandra Yagna are performed in the names of demigods, but the demigods are bodily parts of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead. In these the demigod cannot accept sacrificial offerings for themselves, but they can accept them for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as a departmental tax collector of the government cannot collect taxes for his personal account, but can realize them for the government. Any yagna performed with the complete knowledge and understanding is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Brahmar Brahmarpanam, or the sacrifice occurred by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since no one but the Supreme Lord can enjoy the results of the sacrifice, the Lord says that He is actual enjoyer of all the sacrifices. Bhuktaram Yagna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. The sacrifices should be performed with a view in the mind as stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.24.
Okay, Prabhuji. Okay. So see, the important thing here is that we do yajnas, right? Prabhupada says that they are karma kanda. They are related to karma kanda. But the important thing is we should still perform them because if we don't perform yajnas, we cannot be happy, right? And the most important thing is what we do is is the central position, right? So there is a tinge of bhakti in it, and since there is a tinge of bhakti in it, this becomes this material activity becomes spiritual, right? It helps us to go to the spiritual platform. Therefore, any yajna which we do, it should be performed. It's not that we reject that we should not perform any yajna, right? Recently, we went to a function, right? Of baby shower, right? There was a yajna done there. So these yajnas must be done. That is what Prabhupada is saying, because they have a tinge of bhakti, and that is what it is valuable, and that's what it takes it to the transcendental position. So this should be our understanding whenever we are performing any yajna. It should not be that we reject all of this, right? We say that, oh, this is not, in Kali Yuga, this is not needed, it's of no use. No, we should still perform the yajnas, because it is our duty as human beings, right? And demigods, right? We are obliged to perform these yajnas. This is what is written here. And we should perform them, but our consciousness should be that it is only done for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, Lord Vishnu, right? Let's read it further. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. The performer of sacrifices must always keep in view that sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas are meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishnur Aradhyate Pantaha. Vishnu Puran 3.8.9. Anything material or spiritual done for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord is understood to be an actual yajna. By performing such yajnas, one gets liberation from material bondage. The direct method of getting liberation from material bondage is devotional service, comprising the following 9 methods: Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So this is the this 9-fold process is described in this verse as Vishuddha Vijnana Gana. So this shloka has this words Vishuddha Vijnana Gana, right? So doing this direct devotional service is what is meant here. Yeah, because it Lord Krishna, or satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly by transcendental knowledge concentrated on the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This is the best method for satisfying the Supreme Lord. One who cannot take this direct process, however, should take the indirect process of performing yajnas for the satisfaction of Vishnu or yajna. Vishnu is therefore called Yajnapati, Shriyapati, Yajnapatim, Jagatpatim, right? We have this Bhagavatam shloka clearly talks about all this. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, deep scientific knowledge concentrated to the Supreme Lord. Medical science, some sufficiently, not, however, knows everything in detail. Therefore, his knowledge is Vijnana Ghana, because it does not have any of the defects of material science. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Vishuddha Vijnana Ghana, concentrated transcendental knowledge. Therefore, even though he accepts karma kandya materialistic yajnas, he always remains in a transcendental position. Therefore, the mention of Aneka Guna refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead's many transcendental qualities, for he is not affected by the material qualities. The different kinds of material paraphernalia or physical elements are also gradually transformed into spiritual understanding, because ultimately there is no difference between material and spiritual qualities, for everything emanates from the Supreme Spirit. This is realized by a gradual process of realization and purification. One vivid example of this, is Dhruva Maharaj, who took to meditation in the forest to achieve material benefit, but ultimately became spiritually advanced and did not want any benediction for material profit. He was simply satisfied with the association of the Supreme Lord. Asaya means determination. Generally, a conditioned soul has a determination for material profit. But when these desires for material profit are satisfied through performance of yajna, one gradually achieves the spiritual platform. Then his life becomes perfect. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10 therefore recommends akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udharadhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. Everyone, whether a kama, a devotee, sarva kama, a karmi, or moksha kama, a jnani or yogi, is encouraged to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the direct method of devotional service. In this way, one can get both material and spiritual profit simultaneously. So this is a very, very instructive purport. I think it is very, very direct and explains that even if you do any material activity, if you involve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in it, it becomes a spiritual activity. And therefore, any yajna which we perform, even if we do any karma kandi activity, if we involve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that, then it becomes spiritual. And the example of Dhruva Maharaj is given that he started he wanted something material, but finally understood that it is of no use, and then his the prayers of Dhruva Maharaj, which we have seen, and all the things which he done, so we may start with something for material benefit, but if we involve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it becomes spiritual. Also, the direct process, a very, very simple direct process is explained here with this 9 process of devotional service. If we do this devotional service, then you don't need to do any of these karma kandi activities also. We don't need to reject them, but if the direct process is much more simpler, and anybody, be it devotee, a yogi, or karma kandi person, should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is what Prithu Maharaj is saying to, or giving instructions to his citizens, that please perform devotional service, please perform bhakti, and the important point here is this Vishuddha Vijnana Ghana, right? So the Supreme Lord is, Ghana means dense, right? In English, Ghana means dense. And you can see concentrated. Prabhupada also translates at concentrated. And the science, Vijnana is science, Vijnan, right? We have this Vijnan and Ghana. So Vishuddha means without contamination. So the Supreme Lord is described as Vishuddha Vijnana Ghana, right? And he can perform let's move ahead. Anybody would want to read this?
Prabhu, can I attempt, Prabhu?
Yes, sure, Prabhuji. Please go ahead.
Pradhana kalashaya dharma sangrahe sarirayesha pratipadhya chetanam kriyapalattvena vibhur vibhavyate idhanalo darushu tadgunatmakaha. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead is all pervading, but he is also manifested in different types of bodies, which arise from a combination of material nature, time, desires, and occupational duties. Thus, different types of consciousness develop, just as fire, which is always basically the same, blazes in different ways according to the shape and dimension of firewood. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly lives with the individual soul as Paramatma. The individual soul has awareness in accord with his material body, which he attains by virtue of Prakriti or material nature. The material ingredients are activated by the force of time, and thus the 3 material modes of nature are manifested. According to his association with the 3 modes of nature, the living entity develops a particular type of body. In animal life, the material mode of ignorance is so prominent that there is very little chance of realizing the Paramatma, who is also present within the heart of the animal. But in the human form of life, because of developed consciousness, Yetanam, one can be transferred from ignorance and passion to goodness by the results of his activities. Kriya Palatvena. A human being is therefore advised to associate with spiritually advanced personalities. The Vedas, Mundaka Upanishad 1.2.12 give the direction Tat Vijnanarthanam. Tat Vijnanarthanam. Sorry, Prabhu.
Sagurum evabhigacchati.
Sagurum gachati. In order to reach the perfection of life or to understand the real constitutional position of the living entity, one must approach the spiritual master. Gurum evabhigachat. One must. It is not optional. It is imperative that one approach the spiritual master, for by such association, one proportionately develops his consciousness towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The highest perfection of such consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. According to the body given by Prakriti or nature, one's consciousness is present. According to the development of consciousness, one's activities are performed. And according to the purity of such activities, one realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present in everyone's heart. The example given in herein is very appropriate. Fire is always the same, but according to the size of the fuel or burning wood, the fire appears to be straight, curved, small, big, etc.
Yeah.
Prabhu, can you? Sorry.
Yeah, you can continue, Prabhuji.
Yeah. According to the development of consciousness, God realization is present. In the human form of life, it is recommended, therefore, that one undergo the different types of penances and austerity is described in Bhagavad Gita: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. Like a staircase, yoga has different steps for reaching the topmost floor. And according to one's position upon the staircase, he is understood to be situated in Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. Of course, Bhakti Yoga is the topmost step on the staircase of realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, according to one's development in consciousness, one realizes his spiritual identity. And thus, when one's existential position is purified fully, he becomes situated in Brahmananda, which is ultimately unlimited. Therefore, the Sankirtan movement contributed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Lord Chaitanya is the direct and easiest process for coming to the purest form of consciousness. Krishna consciousness, the platform on which the Supreme Personality is fully realized. Directions for performing different types of yajnas are specifically arranged for the highest realization of the Supreme Lord. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized according to the proportion of one's surrender. Ye yatha mam prapadhyante tam
tataiva
bhajamyaham. Full surrender, however, occurs when a man is perfectly in knowledge. Bahunam janmanam ante gnanavan mam prapadhyate. BG 7.19.
Haribol, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for reading the purport. So here we can see that, let's look at the example given, right? If we perform, what we are trying to compare here is the consciousness, right? The consciousness is compared to the fire. So the fire is same, right? But depending on how, what is used to lit the fire, right? If you have a bigger wood, there will be a bigger fire, right? If you put something in it, it can be an explosive fire, right? So similarly, there are different consciousness, right? You can have material consciousness, then and you can get low level of consciousness, right? But consciousness is same, right? The Chetana is same, the consciousness is same, but it gets developed. We can get transferred from ignorance and passion and goodness, depending on our activities, right? And the most important thing here, Prabhupada talks about two things. One is of association. So associating with saintly people is very important to develop our consciousness. Second is making sure that we search for a guru and we take a guru in our life, right? So that those are the two things which is very, very important, and Prabhupada is talking about here. So these are the instructions which Prithu Maharaj is giving to his citizens, right? You can see the kind of ruler. He's a Rajya Rishi, right? Prithu Maharaj is a Rajya Rishi, and these are the instructions he's giving to his citizens. And then we see the different kinds of yoga which are described in Bhagavad Gita as well, and then Prabhupada talks about Krishna consciousness, wherein it's a very simple process, performing Sankirtana Yajna, right? Again, that is also a Yajna. And if we perform Sankirtana Yajna, we can easily take to Bhakti. And if you do Bhakti, you can easily achieve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the gradual elevation in consciousness can happen through this also, right? You can start with performing some Yajna, it will bring some spiritual consciousness, and then slowly and steadily you can perform your karmas, and then once you start doing this Sankirtana, which is very, very direct and easy process, you can reach the Bhakti Yoga stage very easily. And you need not, the different yoga ladders, right? It's very difficult. We have read in our Bhakti Shastri course that it is very difficult to perform Dhyana Yoga, right? But Bhakti Yoga is direct and enjoyable both for who is doing it, right? And it's very enjoyable process to perform Bhakti Yoga. And the result also is very, very good. So that's why Prabhupada is saying Bhakti Yoga is the topmost step on the staircase of realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Let's move on. 4.2.36. Anybody would want to read?
Hare Krishna,
Can I-
Prabhuji.
Sorry.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hello, Prabhuji. Can I do, Prabhu?
Yeah, Prabhuji, please go ahead. You need not even ask.
No, thank you very much, Prabhu. 4.21.36. Aho mamami vitarantyaanugraham harim gurum yajna bhujam adishwaram swadharma yogena yajanti mamaka nirantaram kshoni tale dridhavrataha. Yes, scroll down, Prabhu.
Okay,
Yes.
Prabhuji?
Translation and purport by Abhay Chanarana Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master and enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. And he is the supreme spiritual master as well. All of you citizens on the surface of the globe who have a relationship with me and are worshipping him by dint of your occupational duties or bestowing your mercy upon me. Therefore, O my citizens, I thank you. Purport. Maharaja Prithu's advice to his citizens to take to devotional service is now concluded in two ways. He has repeatedly advised persons who are neophytes to engage themselves in devotional service according to the capacities of the different orders of social and spiritual life. But here he specifically thanks those already engaged in such devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is actually the enjoyer of all sacrificial ceremonies and who is also the supreme teacher as Antaryami or Paramatma. There is specific mention of the word Gurum, which indicates the Supreme Personality as Chaitya Guru. The Supreme Godhead in his Paramatma feature is present in everyone's heart. and he is always trying to induce the individual soul to surrender unto him and to engage in devotional service. Therefore, he is the original spiritual master. He manifests himself as spiritual master both internally and externally to help the conditioned soul both ways. Therefore, he has been mentioned herein as Guru. It appears, however, that in the time of Maharaja Prutu, all the people on the surface of the globe were his subjects. Most of them, in fact, almost all the time of almost all of them, yeah,
All of them.
were engaged in devotional service. Therefore, he thanked them. One second. Therefore, he thanked them in a humble way for engaging in devotional service and thus bestowing their mercy upon him. In other words, in a state where the citizens and the head of state are engaged in devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they help one and another and are mutually benefited. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you so much. So it's if you look at the state of the kingdom of Prithu Maharaj and compare it with today's day, right? We look at leaders who are totally opposite of what Prithu Maharaj is talking here, right? And we can see all the kinds of problems which we are facing now as citizens, as well as the rulers, right? There is a lot of scarcity, lot of problems, I mean, it's a very, very bad world, right? But if you look at the instruction of Prithu Maharaj, why is Prithu Maharaj actually thanking the citizens for being engaging in devotional service? Because according to our scriptures, if the king, I mean the duty of the king is to protect the citizens and make sure that they engage in devotional service. If they don't do it, then whatever sins the citizens commit, 50% of them go to the ruler. So you can imagine the state today and what the leaders who are leading will have, right? They are not engaging the citizens. They are not engaging the citizens to perform devotional service. In fact, they are trying to push the people away from devotional service, right? You can see the statements given by political leaders nowadays, and what Prithu Maharaj is talking about. So we can clearly see this difference, right? And that's why for us devotees, we should see that I mean, this is not a election pitch, but we should see that we elect people who at least have some spiritual bent of mind, right? So let's move ahead. Anybody would want to take this? Read this.
Prabhu, can I attempt, Prabhu?
Yes, go ahead, Prabhuji.
Majatu teja prabhaven mahardibhi stitikshaya tapasa vidyaya cha dedipyamane jita devatanam kule swayam rajakuladvijanam. Translation: the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are personally glorified by their characteristic powers of tolerance, penance, knowledge, and education. By dint of all these spiritual assets, Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. It is therefore advised that the princely order not exhibit its material powers before these two communities and should avoid offending them. Can you scroll up a little, Prabhu? Little more, Prabhu. Sorry. Yeah. Prithu Maharaja has explained in the previous verse the importance of devotional service for both the rulers and the citizens of the state. Now he explains how one can be steadily fixed in devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while instructing Srila Rupa Goswami, has compared the devotional service of the Lord with a creeper. A creeper has a feeble stem and requires the support of a tree to grow. And while growing, it requires sufficient protection so that it may not be lost. While describing the system of protection for the creeper of devotional service, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has especially stressed protection from offense under the lotus feet of Vaishnavas. Such offenses are called Vaishnava Aparadha. Aparadha means offense. If one commits Vaishnava Aparadha, all of his progress in devotional service will be checked. Even though one is very much advanced in devotional service, if he commits offenses at the feet of a Vaishnava, his advancement is all spoiled. In the Shastras, it is found that a very great yogi, Durvasa Muni, committed a Vaishnava Aparadha and thus for 1 full year had to travel all over the universe, even to Vaikuntha Loka, to defend himself from the offense. At least, even when he approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vaikuntha, he was refused protection. Therefore, one should be very careful about committing offenses at the feet of a Vaishnava. The most grievous type of Vaishnava Aparadha is called Guru Aparadha, which refers to offenses at the lotus feet of the spiritual master. In the chanting of the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this Guru Aparadha is considered the most grievous offense. Gurur Vagna Sruti Sastra Nindanam, Padma Purana. Among the 10 offenses committed against the chanting of the holy name, the first offenses are disobedience of the spiritual master and blasphemy of the Vedic literature. The simple definition of Vaishnava is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a person who immediately reminds one of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is a Vaishnava. In this verse, both Vaishnavas and Brahmanas are mentioned. A Vaishnava is a learned Brahmana and is therefore designated as Brahmana Vaishnava. Brahmana Pandita or as a Vaishnava and Brahmana. In other words, a Vaishnava is supposed to be Brahmana already, but a Brahmana may not be a pure Vaishnava. When a person understands his pure identity, Brahmajanat, he immediately becomes a Brahmana. In the Brahmana stage, one's understanding of the absolute truth is mainly based on the impersonal view. When a Brahmana, however, rises to the platform of personal understanding of the Supreme Godhead, he becomes a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is transcendental even to a Brahmana. In the material conception, the position of a Brahmana is the highest in human society. But a Vaishnava is transcendental even to the Brahmana. Both the Brahmana and Vaishnava are spiritually advanced. A Brahmana's qualifications are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita as truthfulness, mental equanimity, control of the senses, the power of tolerance, simplicity, knowledge of the absolute truth, firm faith in the scriptures, and practical application of the Brahmanical qualities in life. In addition to all these qualifications, when one is fully engaged in the transcendental loving services of the Lord, he becomes a Vaishnava. Prithu Maharaja warns his citizens who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, he becomes a Vaishnava. Prithu Maharaja warns his citizens who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Lord to take care against offenses to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Offenses at their lotus feet are so destructive that even the descendants of Yadu, who were born in the family of Lord Krishna, were destroyed due to offenses at their feet. The Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot tolerate any offense at the lotus feet of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Sometimes, due to their powerful positions, princes or government servants neglect the position of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, not knowing that because of their offense, they will be ruined. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So clearly, position of the Vaishnava, the power of the Vaishnava, the power of the Brahmana are mentioned here, and Vaishnava Aprad is like, I mean, it's a mad elephant offense, right? If you do this, you're committing a mad offense, mad elephant offense, right? A mad elephant, actually what it does is it goes ahead and destroys everything in the garden, right? Whatever is there in the garden, if it goes inside, it will destroy everything. It will uproot the trees and so on and so forth. So since our bhakti is compared to the creeper, and the mad elephant will destroy that creeper, right? So if you do a Vaishnava Aprad, then you would destroy your bhakti. So there is no hope of making any progress if we do Vaishnava Aprad. And that is one of the very, very important things which we need to understand. And the topmost Vaishnava Aprad, which Prabhupada says, is offending your guru or doing a guru Aprad, right? And we read those 10 offenses, right? What does it say? The offense says that the third offense says, right? To disobey the orders of the spiritual master, right? So we should not, in under any circumstances, perform Guru Aprad if we want to develop bhakti, right? And also he talks about blasphemy of the Vedic scriptures, right? Again, one of the offenses mentioned in the 10 offenses is to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance to the Vedic version, right? So that is one of the offenses which are mentioned in the 10 offenses which we read daily during our prayers, morning prayers, right? Again, I mean, one more thing is, like, we might have material power, we might be powerful, but we should always understand that a Vaishnava or a Brahmana are more powerful, and especially Vaishnavas, right? Prabhupada is distinguishing between a Vaishnava and a Brahmana, right? A Vaishnava is definitely a Brahmana, but not vice versa, right? A Brahmana may not be a pure Vaishnava, right? So the Vaishnavas are the topmost, and then Brahmanas and so on and so forth. But so a Vaishnava is automatically a Brahmana, but a Brahmana may not be a Vaishnava. So somebody whose understanding of the Supreme Lord is only on the impersonal level is I mean, he may be a Brahmana, but he cannot become a Vaishnava. He becomes a Vaishnava only when he has the personal understanding of the Supreme Lord. So Vaishnava always have that personal understanding that the Supreme Lord is different and the Jiva is different, right? So that personal understanding is always there, and the Vaishnavas are more, I mean, are superior to the Brahmanas. But it doesn't mean that we should offend the Brahmanas, right? We should be very, very careful not to even offend the Brahmanas, okay? Because the Lord does not like that, right? He does not like anybody offending the Brahmanas also. So we should be very, very, very careful about it. Okay. Let's move on. 4.2.38. Anybody would want to take this?
Yes, Prabhu. Can I read again?
Yeah, Prabhuji, go ahead.
Yes. Brahmalya Deva, translation, Prabhu. The Supreme Personality of, yeah.
Go ahead, Prabhuji, as you like. You can read the shloka if you want. If you can read it, otherwise you can read the translation in perfect.
Brahmalya Devaya Purusha Puratano Lityav Harir Yacharna Abhivaldalat Avapalakshmim Anapiyimnim Yasyo Jagat Pavitram Cha Mahatam Granati. Sorry, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ancient, the eternal Godhead.
Sorry, Prabhu. Sorry.
No problem.
Go ahead, Prabhuji. Now it should be there.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ancient, eternal Godhead, who is the foremost among us, all the great personalities, obtained the appearances of high staunch reputation, which purifies the entire universe by worshipping the lotus feet of those Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. purport. The Supreme Personality of the Supreme Person is described herein as a Brahmana Deva, Brahmanya Devaya. Brahmanya refers to Brahmanas. The Vaishnavas are the Brahmanical culture, and the Deva means worshipable Lord. Therefore, unless one is on the transcendental platform of being, a Vaishnava are on the highest platform of the material goodness, as Brahmanas. He cannot appreciate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the lower stages of ignorance and passion, it is difficult to appreciate or understand the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Lord is described herein as a worshipable deity for persons in Brahmanical and Vaishnava culture. Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmanitaya Cha, Jagaditaya, Krishnaya, Govindaya, Namo Nama. Vishnu Purana 1.965. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the prime protector of Brahminical culture and the cow. Without knowing and respecting these, one cannot realize the science of the God. And without this knowledge, any welfare activities or humanitarian propaganda cannot be successful. The Lord is Purusha, or the supreme enjoyer. Not only is the enjoyer when he appears as a manifested incarnation, but he is enjoyer since time immemorial, from the very beginning, Puratana, and eternal Nityam. Yet Charanam Abhivaldana Adatmat Prithu Maharaj said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead attained this opulence of eternal fame simply by worshipping the lotus feet of the Brahmanas. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord does not need to work to achieve the material gain. Since he is the perpetually supremely perfect, he does not need to obtain anything, but still it is said that he obtained his opulence by worshipping the lotus feet of the Brahmanas. These, these are his exemplary actions. When Lord Sri Krishna was in Dwarka, he offered his respect by bowing down at the lotus feet of the Narada. When Sudama Vipra, uh, sorry,
Yes, yes.
well,
Sudama Vipra came to his house.
no, I just it has moved in my mobile. One second, probably. I'll just,
Okay.
yeah. Well, Sudama Vipra. Please, perfectly. Where I'm leading from?
You are facing a problem,
Okay,
Prabhuji?
worshipping the lotus brahmanas. Yeah. Explanatory. Sorry, Prabhu.
Should I read?
Sorry. Yes. Thank you,
Yeah, go
Prabhuji.
ahead.
When Sudama Vipra came to his house, Lord Krishna personally washed his feet and gave him the seat on his personal bed. Although he was the supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna offered his respect to Maharaj Yudhishthira and Kunti. The Lord's exemplary behavior is to teach us. We should learn from his personal behavior how to give protection to the cow, how to cultivate Brahminical qualities, and how to respect the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 3.21, Yad acharati shrestasta tat evato jana. If we are the leading personalities have behave in a certain manner, the others follow them automatically. Who can be more of the leading personality than the supreme personality of Godhead, and whose behavior could be more exemplary? It is not that he needed to do all these things to acquire material gains, but all these acts were performed just to teach us how to behave in the material world. The supreme personality of Godhead is described herein as Mahatma Agrani. Within this material world, the Mahatmas are the great personalities, are Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, but he is above and all, or above them all. Narayana Paro Vyak, Vyak, Vyaktar. The supreme personality of Godhead is transcendental position because, transcendental position above everything, created within the material world. His opulences, his riches, his beauty, his wisdom, his knowledge, his realization, and his reputation are Jagat Pavitram, universally purified. The more we discuss his opulences, the more the universe becomes purer and purer. In the material world, the opulences possessed by the material persons are never fixed. Today, one may be very rich, but tomorrow he may be very poor. Today, one may be very famous, but tomorrow he is ill famous. Materially obtained opulences are never fixed, but all six opulences perpetually exist in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only in the spiritual world, but in the material world, but also in the material world. Lord Krishna's reputation is fixed, and his book of wisdom, Bhagavad Gita, is still honored. Everything pertaining to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally existing. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for reading this, right? So again, I think this is very, very clear purport, and the qualities of the Supreme Lord, right? All his opulences and everything is described here, right? His knowledge, his wisdom, his renunciation, right? His riches, his beauty, correct? All these six opulences are described here, and it is said that he is Jagat Pavitram. So for us, I mean, a very simple thing here is that if we discuss about his opulences, the universe becomes more purer and purer, right? The material world can, I mean, it is very easy. I mean, if you just simply glorify the Lord, simply glorifying the Lord is a very, very easy thing. And also the other thing is the Supreme Lord by his own behavior is teaching us how to respect the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, right? So the Lord himself offered, right? We know the story of Sudama, right? And it's a very, very profound chapter in Bhagavatam. And once we reach there, we will read about it. But we can see from the behavior of the Supreme Lord himself that how we should respect the Brahmanas, and how do we respect even the elders, right? Lord Shri Krishna offered respects to Maharaj Yudhishthir and Kunti Maharani, right? Even though he is the Supreme Lord. So, but he's showing it with his behavior that how we as devotees should respect other Vaishnavas, and how we should. So that's why whenever we see that, right? Whenever a Sannyasi Maharaj comes or a senior devotee comes, we try to welcome them, right? That's what Prabhupada has set up in this society, right? All this is coming directly from the Supreme Lord, right? Our philosophy, if you see, of Krishna consciousness, as I said, right, that these verses describe that, right? The philosophy from where whatever we do in Krishna consciousness comes directly from this from the shlokas which are mentioned here, correct? Okay, let's move ahead. So in the interest of time now, I think we will go a little fast. So we will not try to read the complete purport, and the purport's also a little smaller from now, I hope. Let's go ahead. So I will just read this translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is everlastingly independent and who exists in everyone's heart, is very pleased with those who follow in his footsteps and engage without reservation in the service of the descendants of the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. For he is always dear to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and they are always dear to him. Purport: it is said that the Lord is most pleased when he sees one engage in the service of his devotee. Very, very important. He does not need any service from anyone because he is complete. But it is in our own interest to offer all kinds of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These services can be offered to the Supreme Person not directly, but through the service of the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Srila Narottam Das Thakura sings, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtara Paiche Deba, which means that unless one serves the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, one cannot get irritation from the by satisfying the senses of the spiritual master, one can satisfy the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, this behavior is not only mentioned in the scriptures, but also followed by acharyas. Prithu Maharaj advised his citizens to follow the exemplary behavior of the Lord himself and thus engage in the service of the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. So we can see the instructions, very, very instructive, right? Prithu Maharaj is giving a direct, he's teaching his citizens devotional service. And one of the very important aspects of devotional service is to serve the devotees of the Lord, right? The Lord becomes extremely happy if we serve the devotees. We might offer direct service to the Lord sometimes, but more than that, the Lord becomes more happy if we serve his devotees. So if you have served a devotee of the Lord in your life, then we have that hope that someday or the other will definitely get the blessings of the Lord and will definitely get his mercy. So a clear cut or a clear shot to getting the mercy of the Lord is to serve the devotees of the Lord. So whenever we get any opportunity, we should take it with both the hands and perform that service to the best of our abilities. Let's move on. And you can see that in ISKCON or in our society, we get that ample opportunity, right? Nowhere you will get this kind of a direct opportunity to serve the supreme, to serve the devotees of the Lord, right? There are so many opportunities which we get to serve the Vaishnavas, right? And that's why being in association of the devotees is so very important, right? Being associated, being there, that these opportunities will automatically come, and then we should take those opportunities with both the hands, and that will make our life successful, right? So let's read this translation. 40th shloka. By regular service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can clear the dirt from his heart and enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied. In this world, there is no fruitive activity superior to serving the Brahmana class, for this can bring pleasure to the demigods for whom the sacrifices are recommended. Again, further from the previous shloka, Prithu Maharaj is stressing on the service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, right? What is the effect if we serve the Brahmanas? It will clear the dirt from the heart, and we can enjoy supreme peace and liberation, right? So we cannot have peace in this world if we are not serving the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. And that is clearly, you can see this now. This is a very, very direct manifestation of what is happening today. Since the Brahmanas are being destroyed or not treated properly, we can see the disturbances in the society, right? You cannot have peace in the society if you are not serving the Brahmanas or they are not being treated properly. And today's world, in Kali Yuga, first of all, there are very few Brahmanas left, and they are also not treated properly. And so that's why there is no peace, and there will be no peace in this world because you can clearly see Bhagavatam is talking about, Prithu Maharaj is clearly saying that can be no peace. You cannot enjoy peace if you don't serve the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. And in the world today, we can see this happening, right? So again, there is a very good purport, but we'll not go through it in the interest of time. But my recommendation is, please read these purports. They are the purports are very, very detailed and deep, and if you read them, it will give you that understanding of our as I said, of a Krishna conscious philosophy also, and also a very practical way of how to perform devotional service, right? Moving ahead, 41. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ananta, eats through the fire sacrifices offered in the names of the different demigods, he does not take as much pleasure in eating through fire as he does in accepting offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees, for then he does not leave the association of devotees. So here again, we do fire sacrifices, we do yajnas, right? The fire sacrifices is basically the Havan Kund which we see is actually the mouth of Lord Vishnu, and we are directly offering him the food stuff. but the Lord does not enjoy that so much as much as he enjoys when you feed a Brahmana. So that's why if you see in our culture, it is always in our culture, we always feed the Brahmanas, right? Any activity we do, any good activity, any Shraddh ceremony, anything which we do, any ceremony, any sanskara we do, we first feed the Brahmanas, because it is through the mouth of the Brahmanas that the Supreme Lord enjoys, right? If you feed the Brahmana well, it means you have fed the Supreme Lord well. And the Supreme Lord enjoys that much more than what we offer in the fire sacrifice. So it's our culture. You can clearly see in our culture, we offer food to the Brahmanas first. Anything, right? Even if you have done a yajna, we will first offer the food to the Brahmanas. Even in marriage ceremony, we first offer food to the Brahmanas. And all this is coming from our scriptures, right? This is what why we do certain things, right? It is coming from here. And this month right now is the Shraddh Paksh, right? We perform Shraddh for our ancestors. Again, it is said that those ancestors of ours, they come to our home by sitting on the backs of those Brahmanas which we invite to our home for having prasad, right? So they come and they also partake the foodstuff which we offer to the Brahmanas. So that's why it is important that during this month of, this Shraddh Paksh, we call a Brahmana and we feed them. And even Advait Acharya, you can see when he performed the Shraddh ceremony of his father, he first offered the foodstuff he offered it to Haridas Thakur, who is a Param Vaishnava and an elevated Brahmana. So the example of Advait Prabhu is given here. Okay. Let's move on. 42. In Brahmanical culture, a Brahmana's transcendental position is eternally maintained because the injunction of the Vedas are accepted with faith, austerity, spiritual conclusions, full sense and mind control, and meditation. In this way, the real goal of life is illuminated, just as one space is fully reflected in a clear mirror. Again, this is a continuation of the importance of maintaining the Brahmanical culture and maintaining the Brahmanas. And Prabhupada again gives a very, very detailed purport. And in interest of time, we will not read this. But if you read this purport, these are very, very instructive and very, very helpful, as I said, again, to understand why we do certain things and why the Brahmanas must be respected. So today, today's days and time, people want to destroy this Brahmanical culture. But for us devotees, this is very important to understand that this Brahmanical culture is the only thing which will help us to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Varnashrama Dharma and the Brahmanical culture which was present earlier, at least we can maintain within ourselves, amongst us, and we can, that can help us to make progress in our spiritual life. One other important thing which Prabhupada talks about is this Brahmana Bhojana. And again, Prabhupada is giving the context of today's Brahmanas and then he's talking about the Vaishnavas, that it doesn't mean that just because you're born in a Brahmanical family that you are eligible for it, but you should have that qualification of a Brahmana, right? That's what Prabhupada is stressing here in the purport. Okay. 43. O respectable personalities present here, I beg the blessings of all of you that I may perpetually carry on my crown the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmanas and Vaishnavas until the end of my life. He who can carry such dust on his head is very soon relieved of all the reactions which arise from sinful life, and eventually he develops all good and desirable qualities. Again, a very, very, this is what Maharaj is saying, that I beg the blessings of all of you, that I carry the dust of the lotus feet. So, Prithu Maharaj wants he's showing his humble position, right? This is how Raja Rishi is, right? That I be always guided by the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and because of their being happy, I would be relieved of all the reactions, right? Because he's the king, so he will get the sinful reactions. But by being surrendered to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, he would be relieved from all the reactions, right? Sorry. Whoever acquires the Brahmanical qualities, whose only wealth is good behavior, is grateful, and takes shelter of experienced persons, get all the opulences of the world. I therefore wish that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates be pleased with the Brahmana class, with the cows, and with me. So this again is a prayer Ritu Maharaj is making, that I always serve the Brahmana class. Okay. (45) The great sage Maitreya said, after hearing King Prithu speak so nicely, all the demigods, the denizens of Pitraloka, the Brahmanas, and the saintly persons present at the meeting congratulated him by expressing their goodwill. So last time, Prabhuji explained the various levels of discussions which were happening, right? There was a beautiful chart which explained that, right? So all this is that this discussion which we are reading is happening between Maitreya Rishi and Vidura, right? So Maitreya Rishi is saying that, I mean, now the conversation is switching back to Maitreya Rishi and Vidura, right? Sloka 46. They all declared that the Vedic conclusion that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the actions of a putra or a son was fulfilled. For the most sinful Vena, who had been killed by the curse of the Brahmanas, was now delivered from the darkest region of the hellish life by his son Maharaj Prithu. So here, you see, we say that we should have a putra. Putra means what? Put means what? See, Put means hellish planet, and Tra means to get released from it. So Putra is a person who can deliver a person from this hellish planet. So that's why so much importance is given in our, I mean, you might say the Brahmanas giving us this Putra, may you have a son, right? So here a clear example is given of King Vena, who was relieved from the hellish planet because he had a son like Prithu Maharaj, right? Similarly, Hiranyakashipu was relieved from this hellish planets because of his son Prahlad Maharaj, right? So if we have, I mean, if we are lucky, if you get a son or like this, then even if you are sinful, you will be relieved from the because King Vena had performed very, very serious offenses at the and he was killed by the Brahmanas, right? They took the decision that he is not ruling according to the according to how it should be ruled, and he tried to stop the worship of the Supreme Lord, declaring himself as the God. So he was killed by the curse of the Brahmanas, and he went to the hellish planets. But now, due to him having a son like Prithu Maharaj, he was relieved from all that. So that's why it is in our culture, we always say that we should at least have one putra, right? So that he can, if we do, I mean, it's not that we should, this does not give us a license to do wrong things, but there is somebody to offer, do Shraddha also, and also he can help us relieve from the hellish planets. 47. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu, who by dint of his sinful activities always defied the Supreme Personality of divine supremacy of the Supreme Personality entered into darkness at the base of his great son Prahlad Maharaj, he was also delivered and went back home, back to Godhead. So again, the second example of Hiranyakashipu. 48. All the saintly Brahmanas thus addressed Pitu Maharaj, O best of the warriors, O father of this globe, may you be blessed with a long life, for you have great devotion to the infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of the universe. So this chapter is now ending. And now the Brahmanas are addressing Pitu Maharaj, that O father of this globe, may you be blessed. So they are now blessing Pitu Maharaj, that you have great devotion. They are giving him that devotion and blessed with a long life. 49. The audience continued, Dear King Prithu, your reputation is the purest of all, for you are preaching the glories of the most glorified of all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the Brahmanas. Since due to our great fortune, we have you as our master, we think that we are living directly under the agency of the Lord. See, this is the thing which the citizens are saying, that we feel that since you are ruling us and since you are preaching the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we feel that it is Ram Rajya, right? That's what they feel. We are living under the direct agency of the Lord. 50th. Our dear Lord, it is your occupational duty to rule over your citizens. That is not a very wonderful task for a personality like you, who are so affectionate in seeing to the interests of the citizens, because you are full of mercy. That is the greatness of your character. So imagine somebody who is very, very merciful, and for him to rule the kingdom, like he has to punish sometimes, right? So it's not an easy task for somebody, right? It's not very easy for him to punish people. Like, see, look at Yamraj also. Yamraj also is a personality who has to punish people, right? But again, that is not his natural inclination. But he's doing it as a service to the Supreme Lord. So similarly, Prithu Maharaj, who is ruling the kingdom and who sometimes have to take decisions wherein he has to punish people or do something which is in the best interest of the citizens, but then again, it is against his nature, right? So the nature of Prithu Maharaj is that he's very affectionate and merciful, but then sometimes he has to punish people. Sometimes he has to, even like we saw, right? He tried to punish Mother Earth, right? So for him, it was not an easy thing. And the citizens are actually glorifying him for that. This is the last shloka. The citizens continued, Today you have opened our eyes and revealed how to cross to the other side of the ocean of darkness. By our past deeds and by arrangement of superior authority, we are entangled in a network of fruitive activities and have lost sight of the destination of life. Thus, we have been wandering within the universe. So you can see a great king, Rajya Rishi. Not only he is going to himself go to the he's going to go to the kingdom of God, but he is also guiding his citizens, right? That's the main duty of the king, actually, to make sure that people under him, people whom he is ruling, that he can give that knowledge by which they can cross over this ocean, right? Ocean of darkness, and go to the Supreme Personality of God. So that is the duty of the king, and Prithu Maharaj is performing that duty very, very well. And the citizens are actually glorifying him for that. Sorry, there is one more shloka. Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as Kshatriya. Again, glorification of Prithu Maharaj by the citizens. So the important thing is that he is introducing Brahminical culture. So this must be the duty of the king or the ruler, right? Earlier kings, they used to take care of protecting the Brahminical culture. Even if you look at some time back, right, when India we had kings, right? What the kings used to do? The kings used to build temples, right? The king used to they were always guided by the Brahmanas. Even in Kali Yuga, we had kings who were directly guided by the Brahmanas and who tried to introduce the Brahminical culture. And that's why in India, you can see there are so many temples built by the kings, right? They were not just, they were people can come closer to the Supreme Lord. They were not built just for the purpose of showing that you have so much knowledge and so it is a huge temples and complex. No, they were built such that the Brahminical culture can be maintained and people can go closer to the Supreme Lord. Because which is the main duty of the and Prithu Maharaj, by his example, is showing all of that. So, with this, I think we have completed the chapter. If there are questions, we can take them up. And I'm extremely sorry. This might be I was not very much prepared to give the class. We have just read the translations and purports. But again, as I said, right, the purports and are very, very they are very, very deep and thorough. And if we don't need anything beyond the purport of what Prabhupada has given here, and if we read the purport properly, we can understand Krishna consciousness very well. So thank you very much, Prabhujis and Matajis. So I will stop here.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for a very nice class. With your permission, Prabhu, I'll just share a few reflections of mine. I thought it was very pertinent
Sure.
because yesterday, Prabhu, I was at the temple. I was attending another class, Bhagavad Gita 8.22, where Devakirandan Prabhu was speaking about unalloyed devotion. And in that context of unalloyed devotion, he spent a lot of time to discuss this word, which is there in the 33rd verse of this chapter, amaniha, which means without reservation, Prabhu. And
Correct.
that for me, I felt that without reservation is an extremely important philosophical concept that we need to imbibe in our lives. And Devakinanda Prabhu, actually, he gave his own example. He said, as a young boy, under his Guru Maharaj, Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, he used to travel from Bombay to Surat. And I believe Maharaj used to often tell Devakinanda Prabhu that let's go without reservation in the train. And
Okay.
And then I believe, so once in the train, of course, Maharaj would, I believe, jokingly say that, see, I am wearing a saffron clothes, I'm an old man. Most likely I will get a seat. They will give me a seat. But for you two boys need to surrender. That is amayinaha. So that is this surrender, that is without reservation. And he gave his own example wherein he said, he used to travel just in the service of his spiritual master. He used to sit next to the bathroom, he used to sit on the floor, and he used to say that his dhoti was to get completely brown and black by the time the train journey used to get over. But I think in this purport also, Prabhupada has wonderfully, mentioned it. I can, if you have permission, if you want, I can read it. So I would want to read that part, that section, if that is all right.
Sure, Prabhuji, please go ahead. Yeah, I will go back to that shloka. Let's go back to that shloka.
So, in this, Prabhupada is saying, Prabhu, that he says, anyone can become successful in devotional service, provided he displays no duplicity. It is explained here that one must be very frank and open-minded. Amayinaha. When he says to be situated in a lower status of life is not a disqualification for success in devotional service. The only qualification is that whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, he must be open. So irrespective of in which Varna he is, he needs to be open, frank, and free from reservations. Then by performing his particular occupational duty, under the guidance of a proper spiritual master, he can achieve the highest success in life. So basically in this, what it's coming back to also, Prabhu, is that, our goal is to go back to Godhead. The process is bhakti, but that process, the bhakti process, how do we execute it? It has to be amayinaha, without reservation, is very, very critical, Prabhu. So that's my very important reflection for today.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Dandavat pranam to you, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for sharing this. I think you have added this. I mean, I did not, as I said, right, I did not prepare very well for this. But I mean, these purports, this specifically this section where these instructions of Prithu Maharaj and the purport and the shlokas from 31 to 51. This, these are very, very, the purports given by Prabhupada are very, very deep in this. And he has quoted from like Bhagavad Gita, he has quoted from Bhagavatam, he has quoted many, many shlokas here to explain this, right? Prabhupada has spent a lot of, these purports are very, very detailed, very deep also. You can see, right, as you said, a single concept, open-minded, as you said, is very, very critical, amaniya, right? So similarly, you can, this portion can have so many things, right? If I believe there are many lectures on this, and if we hear to them, you'll get into a much more deeper philosophical understanding of what needs to be done, right? And this is a very, very basic, I would say very, very important fundamental principles are discussed here. And if we understand them, it will help us to execute a devotional service with much more dedication and with much more ease and understanding. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Dandavat pranam. Thank you.
Panchakalpatarubhasya kripasindhubhaya
Vasundhubhaya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jesus, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. I'm ending the session, Prabhujis and Matajis.